everyone, Kareem Rae here, and today we have Raphael Garcia, who is at Carleton University, but also played pro at Valour FC in the Canadian Premier League. Raphael, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good. It's awesome to have you on, man. Where are you currently?
So I'm in Ottawa, studying at Carleton. Ever since I played pro at Winnipeg, I decided to just head back home and live at home with my parents in Ottawa.
Got it. So, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you right now, too?
I just had my 23rd birthday last week.
A nice, happy belated, bro. So,
Thank you.
the question that everybody wants to know in the soccer world is, how did you become a professional footballer?
That's a great question. I mean, that was always my goal. I mean, playing pro when I was ever since I started playing when I was 4. And it all started when I went to Montreal Impact at the age of 12, left my family, and lived with other players that were like 12, 13 years old. And from there on, from 12 to 18, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So then when at Montreal Impact, the U23s, we had a reserve team, and then it got shut down the year I was supposed to go with the U23s. So all of my generation, the 99s and the 2000s, we either had to find something else or sign, or like, of course, 1 or 2 players got to sign pro with the first team at Montreal Impact, and then the rest we had to find something else. And that's when the CPL came into play. And I knew Rob Gale already from playing with the national team when I was younger, U14 or U15. And so I knew I had a couple CPL teams already interested in me coming in, like when the CPL first started. But I actually decided to do open trials in Montreal with like 200 other kids, like just trying to make it pro. Because I mean, I was like, might as well just showcase my talent right away. I didn't want to like just get there just because I knew the coach, and I wasn't sure if it was gonna happen. So I decided to do open trials with 200 kids, and then that's where I got in touch with Valour.
Nice. What year was that? 2019?
I want to say 2019.
Yeah, that's the year the CPL started, 2019.
Yeah, 2019.
Okay, got it. And you mentioned that you left home at 12. Like, that's really young, bro.
Yeah. I mean, my mom wasn't too happy about it, but the first question she asked me when I told her that I wanted to go to Montreal, I mean, first of all, it's only 2 hours away, Montreal to Ottawa. So if it's not like my parents left me. Like I would still see them like pretty much every weekend. But I moved with the 2 Chouanière brothers, which one actually plays for Forge FC and the other plays for Montreal Impact. So I lived with those 2 brothers for 7 years in Montreal.
Nice. Shout out to those 2 guys. I'd love to get them on the podcast too.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Focusing on you though. So, you played with Montreal Impact, and then from there, where'd you go after Montreal Impact? You went to, you mentioned Velour, right? You got picked up in the CPL 2019.
Yeah. So, but funny enough, in between Valour and Montreal Impact, I had this one game with Ottawa Fury. It was called, like, back in the day, it was called like the Cap City Cup, which was Ottawa Fury against Montreal Impact. So I got to I came in at, like, in the 70th minute and played against Montreal Impact's first team. And like back in the day, they had like Bakary Sagna, like a player that I always looked up to, like fullback. So like I got to play against like top players that I would look up to in the academy, and so like my pro debut was against the team that like formed me when I was younger, and then I went to Valour.
Nice, that's amazing. And how old are you there when you did that?
I was 18. So my first game I was 18, and by the time I got to Valour, I was 19.
That's young, bro. That's a huge accomplishment, and not a lot of 18-year-olds could say that that have done that at 18. But you mentioned you got picked up by Valour FC out of 200 players, right? So what do you think that you did that made you stand out? Like, what did you do so good, or what are some tips that you could share with the viewers in regards of standing out of 200 players?
I mean, I think it's just I don't think it just goes back to that 1 day or that 2 days of tryouts. It goes back that the fact that I was formed 7 years at Montreal Impact, and when the day came, I was just confident, and I was like confident in my abilities, and I knew that if I just played the game, I know how to. That I probably would have some coaches be interested in me. But of course, like if I had to give tips for tryouts, like you just got to be confident in yourself and not afraid to communicate with guys, even if you don't know who they are. Show that that you're willing to do whatever is necessary to win.
Great points. You mentioned, the 7 years at Montreal Impact has helped, a lot in your development. Would you recommend players to go and play in their academy system, in whatever city that they're in? That's the best route. Would you say that? Would you recommend that, or if they could get in, or?
Yes, for sure. I think you have three top academies in Canada: Vancouver, Montreal, TFC. So if you do have the opportunity to go there, of course, that's the first tip. Like you should go, no questions. But when I was 10, 11 years old, I got the opportunity to play with Jonathan David. And Jonathan David was one player that denied, like, I don't know if it's out there, but I'm pretty sure he was offered to go to TFC Vancouver. And he decided for a couple more years. And every player has a different path, but of course, if you had the opportunity to go to an MLS team, I would say yes.
Yeah, 100%. That's amazing. So you've played with some high quality players that that are at the top. You mentioned Jonathan David playing in Ligue 1. Is that, if I'm saying that right, Ligue 1 in France?
Yeah.
So that's cool, man. I've seen Jonathan David in person back in the day, like regional days, those times. But it's cool to see players that you've played with, what level they could reach in it. It definitely shows that we have talent here in Canada. I mean, what would you say about that, the talent group in Canada?
Yeah. I think growing up, I saw all kinds of players, some that I even thought were better than Jonathan David. But just the fact that it is one that is currently the best, if not like one of the best, if not the best player in Canada. So it just shows us that we do have the talent here. It's just a matter of fact of if we do. I think it's just a problem of opportunity. I think players don't get the chance being from Canada. We often get overlooked, but now it's starting to come.
100%.
Like the three different MLS academies, if I would suggest young players to go to MLS academies, and of course I think you should. And there's this odd player that will decide to stay home and stay in Ottawa like Jonathan David did, and decide to go to Europe when he felt he was ready, and look how he turned out. So there's some players that had similar levels to Jonathan David that I saw get lost in the system as well. So but I think in terms of personal development, of course, most players will be better off going to an MLS academy than just staying at your local club.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, since you have that experience of being in that type of system, what comes with that? What can you give players an insight of what comes with being inside that professional environment?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you train every day. So you go to school with your teammates, you train with them, you study with them, you do everything together, right? So not only these guys become your brothers for life, but when you play on the field together, you also know where everyone's going to be. Now, in terms of personal development, training every day, having access to physical coach, mental coach, access to the pro players' facilities, is just easier for a player to develop. Of course, to put it in work, but it's easier for a young player to be at Montreal Impact Academy, let's say, than to be at a local club in Ottawa.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. When I was here in the GTA, so in Toronto area, when Toronto FC just started their academy system, they were selecting players. I never got the chance to experience it because I never went to the trial, at least to try to see if to make it. But you could definitely tell, obviously, because you're training with the best players at the same time with that tight group, and it definitely makes a difference to the players that are being left out and that haven't made it or that didn't go and try. So
Yeah.
I agree with you 100% that the academy system's the way to go. Um, all right, boom. So you got picked up in 2019 in the CPL with Valour FC. What are your thoughts on the CPL? Only good things though. What are your thoughts?
Um, it's great for young Canadians to start up. Uh, like it's for me when I was 18, it was the way to become a professional soccer player, and it's good for young soccer players to develop. Of course, there's some aspects that the league needs to work on, but for me personally, I think it's good for young Canadian soccer players.
Yeah, 100%. How was well, first of all, congratulations to you signing back in 2019. And how was your experience at Velour?
It was good. I mean, my first season, the first half of the season, I remember I was still 18. I was still, learning the ways. And then that second half of the season, I get one start, two good starts, three good starts, and then I ended up starting most of the second half of the season, which led me to be re-signed for the year afterwards. Now, the year afterwards, what happened is that COVID hit, and there was this 7 game season is in PEI, which I had tendonitis in both of my knees, a sprained ankle. Like my body wasn't ready to be playing with men. I was still in a young 18-year-old's body. So I ended up sitting all of that tournament. I think I only came on in the last game, and my body was just completely broken, which is one of the reasons that led me to decide, what, I'm gonna go and play university, because I hadn't played a full year and I was just injured. And when that's your job and you're injured for the full year, you don't have any job security, right? Like it's tough. So I decided that try school so that if it doesn't work out, I can, I'll still get a diploma at the end of the day. Whereas when I was playing professional and I was injured for the whole season, it's difficult.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned it's your job. So if you're not playing, it's kind of like you're not working, right? So
Yeah.
that's the difference between people working and sports wise at least, which so like it's really important to stay healthy. So like now, I mean, before we go on to Carlton, but did you have an agent during your signing process with Velour, or did you just do it by yourself?
Yeah, I used to have an agent, when I was like when it came to, even when I did the tryouts, the CPL tryouts. I had an agent to re-sign my contract. I had an agent. Now that I play university level, I don't think it's useful for me to have an agent right now. I've had like agents come up to me right now, but I don't think it's necessary.
Got it. No, it totally makes sense. Um, you know, talk a little bit about your transition from Velour to Carlton, right? It's a change. It's probably something easier for you, I would say, with your track record and experience. But well, not explain, sorry. Share with us your experience so far going from Velour to Carleton University now.
Yeah, I mean, coming from Velour, I was always injured, and I started to fall out of love with the game. I was always injured, and I spent a whole year just with the physio. So coming back to Carleton was just me trying to appreciate the game a bit more, and it also showed on the field when I was playing. The biggest adjustment for me was of course, to mix in soccer with school. Now you don't have as much free time because when you're a professional soccer player, as long as you're good at the morning session and the next morning session and the game on the weekend, the rest of the day is yours. So it's a complete different lifestyle,
Hmm.
which that was the adaptation that needed to be made for me. But in terms of soccer, I started appreciating it more.
Got it. I mean, we know injuries are a part of the game, which are it's like the worst part. I have a couple questions here. How would you bounce back from an injury mentally and physically?
That's a great question. I mean, some injuries that I have, I still haven't recovered from. Uh, s- some coaches will tell you to just suck it up and just keep on playing through it. I mean, for me, mentally is to do everything I can in my power to make sure that when training comes, I feel comfortable in my body. After everyone gets unlucky, with me, when I had tendonitis in both my knees, it's because I through all of my youth academy process, we didn't really do any uh, strength work for my lower body. So all of the stress would go into my ligaments, which led to these injuries. So uh, it goes case by case. It depends the player you are and what you do when you're off the field.
Got it. I want that's interesting that they didn't do any strength training at the youth academy system. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned something that I wanted to talk about here. Damn, it's not clicking. But I could relate to you on I played semi-professional in the NPSL in Florida, Naples, and semi-professional. It's not professional, but it's still up there, it's still close. It's fourth division, and then Nisa's like third division. You have a lot of free time on your hands, right? I don't like you know, as an aspiring soccer player, they don't, we don't know the lifestyle. Players don't know how the lifestyle is for a pro. They think it's completely different, but it's really the same. The only difference, I don't know if you'd agree with this or not, is that you're getting paid. You're a professional. You got to act like a professional or be a professional on and off the field, and then just perform. Right? You got to get the results because winning matters. But the results and getting paid for what you love to do is like the only difference. What would you say?
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like a lot of players get stuck in that. Oh, I have a lot of free time on my hands. I can do whatever I want. I'm just gonna binge watch a whole Netflix series after my training. So the lifestyle is completely different from a professional soccer player to a semi-pro. No, even semi-pro are going to be closer to a professional player. But I'm talking about university where you have to study or people that have to work. The lifestyle is completely different, and I've seen a lot of players just not make the best decisions. When you get to that professional level, and so many people would kill to be where you are, and you just make horrible decisions when you're off the field.
100%, 100%. And it's interesting. Like you would think that like everyone would be on the same page, but it's not like that at all.
Yeah, no, because I've seen players that have the worst living habits, but when they're on the field, they're still the best player, and their talent just by themselves just gets them by, and you wouldn't think they would get to that professional level, but trust me, they did. So there's some weird cases out there.
100%. That's why we do the podcast, right? Like there's so many different stories on how people went pro. It's very interesting because I always knew there was more to it. So that's why I started up the podcast and started interviewing pros to share it back with the next generation.
Yeah, I'm not sure many people will admit to it, but some of them don't have the best habits.
Yeah, for sure. You know, what advice would you give to players that want to become a professional footballer?
I mean, I try to stay away from like the typical advice you'll get. One advice I like to tell young players is to watch other players play. Watch TV. Watch the Premier League. Watch how Man City plays. Watch other players. That's one advice I like to give because it's a bit different. Like, so yeah, just watch other players play and try to imitate what they do.
Can you give us two more tips for the viewers?
Two more tips.
Yeah.
I mean, for myself, regretting that flexibility, strength and conditioning. Like I'm one player that should stretch more and that doesn't stretch enough. So anything that goes with stretching, yoga, meditation, all of that, like I push for that. But for myself, I should be doing that, and I'm not. So when young players ask me advice, that's one other I give.
Yeah, those are great points. Before we go on to the next question, I just quickly want to ask you, what are you currently majoring in?
I'm majoring in law, so that's law and government and policies.
Nice, nice. So the question that I wanted to ask you before we get into more of the school stuff was, going back a little bit in time, and now I'll add on a two-in-one question is what things changed once you signed your first pro contract, and then I'll ask you the one after, I guess. Yeah.
Sorry, what's the question?
Sorry, that wasn't clear. Yeah, what things changed once you signed your first professional contract?
I mean, everything is based around your performance. So once you sign your professional contract, you're kind of left on your own, you know. Whereas where you're on at the academy, coaches will follow you, ask you questions, how you feel. You'll have physical coaches around you. But when you get to that professional level, it's your job. You would think you would have more people around you, but you're kind of left more on your own to make those your own decisions. And what kind of pro do you want to be, you know?
Yeah, great points. That's the second time I've heard that, and the first time I heard it, I thought it was interesting. I thought there's like a whole team like backing you up and stuff, but I think it's more so on like the European side,
Yeah.
but not on the Canada and US side, at least not yet. Which is pretty interesting, but it's probably still building up to that, right? Still growing.
Yeah.
And then what things changed? Obviously, you made that transition between Velour to Carleton. What things changed now when you're at university? Like, was it hard for you to to make that transition, or was it like, like this is what's meant to be right now?
It was difficult to make because, of course, I had to put an end to my dream of like I did play pro, but of course I would have liked to play longer. I've had to stop playing just for financial and for injury reasons. So it's kind of hard to tell a young Canadian wanting to become professional, like, yeah, I also had the dream of playing pro, but once I got there, I realized that that's not what I wanted to do. So that was the biggest, because I love the game just as much as anyone else, you know, and if it was possible for me to keep on playing pro, of course I would. But taking that like mature decision at 21, 22 years old to say like, you know what, it doesn't make sense for me to continue. That was the hardest decision to make.
And how did you make that decision?
With a lot of talks with my parents, with my family, with my friends that play pro, just saying like, listen, I don't see myself continuing this, and then some teammates telling me like, Raph, what are you doing? Like, you have the talent to be playing at that level. And then my parents saying like, oh, maybe it's a good idea for you to go to school, you know. So I had to weigh my options and then ended up deciding to go back to school.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, bro, look, at least you made it, man. Like when you went pro. You get what I'm saying? Like, not a lot of players accomplish that goal, that dream. So at least you did that part. You got some experience. It's on your resume now, and you got to learn and see a lot of things that a lot of players don't get, right? Like, I'll drop some numbers here real quick. There's a FIFA 2019 report that there's 250 million players that play football, for fun or at different levels, and there is only 130,000 professional players around the world in 2019 at that time. So, like, bro, that's a huge accomplishment. It's not even 1%.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it's a big accomplishment. But of course, when and everyone's like that. No human ever gets satisfied, and we always try to keep on pushing. And so when you're 18, 19, 20, you kind of take it for granted. Looking back at it, I wish I would have enjoyed it more when I was there. I wish I would have, stopped and look at the crowd one day when I was playing and just take in the moment, which I never ended up doing because I thought I was going to stay in the league for much longer. Which I'm still open to going back under the right circumstances. I'm not saying I'll never play pro again. But I wish that's another tip you can add. I wish I would have taken the time to enjoy it more.
Got it. What did you like? What did you experience that you're like, this is not what I expected, like when I got here in the CPO, like this is not what were things that you didn't expect, that personally were like a shock?
I don't think there's much I can say on a podcast that would be okay.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, no.
But there were some shocking moments. Some moments where you were like, I wasn't expecting this at the professional level, you know.
We could talk about it offline. We can talk
But
about it offline.
yeah, yeah. If you want, we'll talk about it offline.
Yeah. Okay. And what position did you play when you were playing in the CPL with Velour?
I was a fullback, so I was playing either right back or left back.
So that means both your feet are good. You're good with both your feet.
Yeah, I'm still working on my left foot, but I would say like if you had to put a FIFA ranking, like I would be like a close to a 4-star weak foot.
That's good, man. That's good. And lastly, what's your most memorable soccer moment?
Probably playing my first pro game for Valour and getting man of the match. So I had the first 4 games of the CPL season. I remember sitting in the stands and not playing a single minute. And then the 5th game, which was at home against Halifax, I expect to sit in the stands again, let alone not even sit on the bench, in the stands. And I end up starting the game and I finished man of the match and we win 1-0 clean sheet. So that was like one memory for me.
Nice. I know I said last question, sorry, but I wanted to ask you a couple of school questions. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So, you're at Carleton University now. Why did you choose law?
For the simple fact that my brother is in law. I had a hard time picking a subject that I was interested into, and that's a problem a lot of soccer players we have, is that when it's time to make decisions and be like, what else do I like apart from soccer, we have a hard time saying it, because me, like most soccer players, it was soccer and nothing else, so when it got to picking a subject, I had a hard time. But my brother was in law and we always kind of talk about law, so it just came naturally.
Is he doing, like, is he majoring in the same thing, or is he working now?
He just finished law school at Ottawa U.
Oh, okay. What kind of lawyer does he want to be? What type?
I have no idea. He's actually doing his master's now. So, and I think he might keep on going to get his PhD and then become a teacher at Ottawa. Like, I think his goal is to become a teacher afterwards.
Okay, got it. And you said you wanted to do law and policies, and what was the other thing?
And government. So, like,
policy and government.
I mean, being in Ottawa, like, I'm in a good city to study law, being in the country's capital. So
yeah,
I mean, we'll see. Maybe getting a government job would be ideal for me.
Nice. We got an insider now in the government.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's dive into the last 10 fun questions, so you got to answer them fast.
All right.
Okay, cool. Who's your favorite team?
Barcelona.
Favorite player?
Messi.
Favorite cleats?
F50s.
Favorite food?
Poutine.
Favorite artist musically?
Kanye West.
Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
The first team, let's just say me and you are going to play FIFA. We got like $2,000 on the line. Who's your go-to team on FIFA?
PSG.
2 goals in a game or 1 goal and 1 assist?
2 goals.
Would you rather score a free kick or a PK last-minute goal?
Free kick.
Lastly, and the last one, if you were a coach and you were able to sub in any player in history, who would you sub in to win you the game?
That's a tough one. Messi again.
Nice. Raphael, before you go, I just want to thank you for taking the time for joining us on the One Soccer Nation podcast today.
Thank you.